Good morning, my friends. How are you? Welcome to another live look inside the Outdoor Magazine radio studio. We call this Behind the Mic. It's Mike Behind the Mic. My name is Mike Avery. Glad to have you along with us as always, as I'm here to record this week's Outdoor Magazine radio show. I'll tell you the rundown here coming up in just a few minutes. But first, if I don't know where you're listening, but if you're here in Michigan and you're watching live, isn't it nice to get a little break in the weather? Good morning, Craig. How are you? Haven't seen you for a while. Your schedule and mine out there at the marina are they're not the same because I haven't seen you. I tried to fish last Friday. Good morning, Brian. Good morning, Patrick. Good morning, Matt. Good morning, Jim. Always a pleasure to have you along with us. Good morning, Julie. Yeah, it is nice outside. Bruce, good morning. How are you? Johnny Bowler. I will be talking to Johnny here on the show, the radio show, but unfortunately, I won't be hunting with Johnny, which breaks my heart. Good morning, Ed Bolanowski, Speedy Blaze, speedyblaze.com. Randy Iamori, are you, you're not fishing this morning, are you, Randy? I tried to fish last Friday in hurricane force winds. Jason checking in from the Ford Dearborn truck plant. Bill Hoffman got no bear or elk tag either. I thought I had about a 50-50 chance on the bear tag. Newberry, third season. Didn't get one, though. Good morning, Dan. Not going to Ontario. 27 in the box Saturday. That was a good day. Al, good morning, Terry. I tried to fish Sunday afternoon, but there was a scheduling conflict, a family scheduling conflict, and those things happen. I was going to fish Monday morning with my grandson. He texted me about 11:30 that night, said, Grandpa, I can't fish tomorrow. It turns out it was a good thing because it was blowing like crazy. So I haven't been on the water now since last Friday. I will be out there. I'd hope to fish tomorrow and Friday. Tomorrow doesn't look so good. Friday looks pretty good. I'll be fishing with the folks from Michigan Brand Meats. David, good morning. Norm checking in from Beaverton. How are things in the beautiful town of Beaverton? My name is Mike Avery. This is Behind the Mic, another live look inside the Outdoor Magazine radio studio. Randy says he's not fishing. There's been a few for him as well. Garden City checking in. Corey, good morning. Dave, good morning. Hey, last week on Wednesday Night Live, we talked about doing a Wednesday Night Live at Oscar and Joey's Roadhouse. Chris, oh man. Chris just drew a 2021 elk tag. Good for you, buddy. What do you do now? Now, Chris, you want to get online and find yourself a guide. Mark had 9 points in Red Oak and didn't draw. So, Chris, find yourself a guide. That is the topic of this week's Ask Avery segment. How do you find a hunting guide? Either a good guide, either here in Michigan or out of state. And that's a great question. Any guide recommendations? Well, I tell you what. Bill Hoffman has a good question. Wonder how Darton is doing since the sale. Been quiet. They have been quiet. I've been talking on a regular basis with Ted Harpham. They're just trying to get production ramped up. I'm very excited about what the new Darton archery will be. Terry was successful in the bear draw. Any recommendations? The only guy I know up there, I'll think of his name, Bob. He looks like a mountain man. He's got long white hair and a big white beard. Idaho bear hunt. Cool. How cool is that? Good morning, Paul. Bob Whitney. My advice is Bob Whitney. Craig Plowman says Kevin Johnson is an awesome elk guide. Kevin got himself in some trouble here last year. I don't know how that worked out, but he is a good elk guide. What will come first before I die? An elk tag or the Lions in a Super Bowl, winning a Super Bowl? Oh, look at you, Sam. Sam Austin of Jay's Sporting Goods, jaysportinggoods.com. He got the second season for Newberry. Good for you, Sam. Do you have a guide? Do you need a guide? Johnny Bowler's there. Mike Critchfield, vets with nets this weekend out of the Detroit Boat Club. Looking forward to it. Jackie and I both fishing. All right, have fun, Mike. Johnny, who is a guide, says contact the DNR. They know the guides. My point, Johnny, is just because somebody is listed as a guide doesn't mean it's necessarily somebody you want to hunt with. Johnny, you know I know you, and I recommend you highly. So just reach out. The thing about guides is check how many points did it take for Newberry's second season, Sam? Check with people who have hunted with a guide before and see what they think. The real test of a guide is if somebody hunted with them and didn't get an animal, would they go back and hunt with them again? Was it a good experience regardless of the success on the harvest? If somebody would go back and hunt with a guide a second time, even though they weren't successful the first time, that's the sign of a good guide. You also want to take a look at, does the hunt include food and lodging as well, or is it just the hunt itself? But congrats to you, my friends, who got elk tags, and congrats to you who got bear tags. I blanked on both. I knew I wouldn't get an elk tag. I did feel good, though. I thought I screwed up and applied for a cow tag. I didn't. It was a bull tag. I wasn't successful. Sam had 5 points to get Newberry's second season. He had 5 points plus this year to get the second season. Good morning, Mad Jack. How are you? How are things over on YouTube? Sam, if you need somebody in Newberry, I can recommend Johnny Bowler. I don't know what Johnny's availability is for hunts. I know he'll be down hunting with us in Ohio with Bill Piles for whitetail later on. And Johnny, that's one of the topics I'd like to touch on briefly with you too, is about the whitetail side of your. Ask the DNR questions about them, like any game violations, any complaints. The DNR will tell you. Thank you, Johnny, for that. I wasn't aware of that. I thought the DNR would just tell you who is a guide. I didn't know they would make recommendations as to the credibility and viability of a guide. So thank you, Johnny. I appreciate that. So no bear tag for me. I'm brokenhearted. John says his friend in Petoskey finally got a bear tag after 10 years. John gave up years back. I put in for a bear tag in Newberry third season after having a tag there last year, and I still had about a 50-50 chance. I know third season next year I'll get a tag. In the meantime, the thoughts of going to Ontario and bear hunting up there have pretty much flown out the window. So I'm jonesing for a bear hunt really bad. I really wanted a bear tag, didn't get it. So now it looks like I'll be concentrating on deer, which I really could care less about, pretty much. Sam has a friend with a cabin up there that's going to run some base for me. Being so busy this time, you gotcha, Sam. So you're set. Good to go. Steve has a recommendation, Enchanted Guide Service for Newberry, Jim Thorpe. Thank you, Steve. I know there's a guy up there, too, that I don't know personally, but he comes highly recommended. 906 Outfitters. Johnny, who is that? The 906 guys? Okay, Johnny's got to go back to work, but he will be back on with us shortly because he's going to be on the Outdoor Magazine radio show this week. While I've got you, let me talk about that. Johnny Bowler is my first guest this week talking about bear hunting here in Michigan. Ron says lots of states have over-the-counter bear tags. Good point, Ron. In fact, there are still tags left in Michigan in the Berglund unit. I could go online here in a couple of weeks and get a bear tag third season for Berglund. But if I did that, I would blow my chances of getting a bear tag for Newberry next year. And I want to go back to Newberry and hunt with Johnny. 906 Outdoors, John Ron, or Rain, but he's the guy I'm thinking of. Thank you, Scott. And he is booked up. Well, no, I got my Yeti here with my Crystal Light, but this has got coffee in it. 906 Outdoors. Yeah, I've heard very good things about John, but Scott says he's booked up. So I'm not bear hunting this year. Berglund. I want to make a note about Berglund. Bergland, which I think is a far western UP, has tags available. You can get them here coming up in a week, week and a half, 2 weeks, whatever. But I'm not going to do that because I don't know. I guess if I knew a good guide in the Bergland area, I really like hunting with Johnny, though. What else is up? I got to take that one off my list. The deadline for that one is closed. Tried to fish last Friday. My buddy Lanny and his son. I told Lanny the night before, I said, look, it's going to be gale force winds coming out of the north, and we're crazy to try to go fishing last Friday. Lanny says, I've got the day off work. Matthew wants to fish. Here we go, Scott. You'll get a list of guides in your packet. That's for elk. That's not for bear, but you're right. You'll get a list of guides in your packet. Check references. Yes, check references. And again, no. After the surgery, Tim, I started drinking coffee again because I had to give up Coke, Diet Coke. So I went back to coffee. Yes, check references. Check references. I've had some wonderful guides and I've had some terrible guides. I've told the story before, but I had a guide in Alaska who was so bad that after seeing the TV show, yes, Scott, good advice. Don't delay calling as the good guides get booked quick. Back when the show was on, I think it was the Outdoor Channel, maybe a Sportsman Channel. We hunted Kodiak Island and fished Kodiak Island with a guy. And the Alaska DNR saw the show and saw him doing several violations. And they flew me back to Alaska to testify against the guide. That's how bad this guy was. So there are some bad guides, and a bad guide can make for a less than enjoyable hunt. We had a hunt one time in Colorado for elk that the guide wouldn't let us go where the animals were. He wanted us to hunt on top of the plateaus in the alfalfa fields, but the elk were down in the valleys, and you could sit on top of the alfalfa fields glass down there and see these monster elk, monster bulls, and the guide wouldn't let us go down there after them. So a pretty frustrating hunt. So I've hunted with great guides, and I've hunted with guides who weren't so good. So do your research. Check your references. Check with people who were unsuccessful on the hunt. Would you go back? Would they go back a second time even though they didn't score? That's the true sign in my book of a good guide. Good morning, David. How are you? Nice to have you along with us. Got a report of the first cicada buzzing on Monday. You know me, I keep track of such things. I didn't hear it. A buddy of mine did in Frankenmuth. The old saying used to be 6 weeks from the first time. Mike Thorman says, check with the Michigan Bear Hunters Association for guide recommendations. Mike Thorman, thank you, Mike, for bringing me back to the show. Johnny Bowler in the radio show, then Bob Ransom from Primal Tree Stands talking about their new Breeze Blind. J.J. Mertz of Mid-Michigan Community College. Oh, Tim heard one yesterday, too. Talking about a hunter, and there's a program at Mid-Michigan Community College for people who want to end up in the outdoor business. We'll talk with J.J. Mertz. Rachel Leitner of the DNR talks about, okay, how do you transfer a bear or elk tag if you want? If I get one, I'm not transferring it. This week's Ask Avery segment talks about how do you pick a good hunting guide. And in the third hour, Mike Thorman from the Michigan Hunting Dog Federation talks about the fact that their training season is coming up, dog training season in the field, if not already. A lot of people now who have bear tags looking for people who run bears with dogs. And we also, if we have time, we'll talk about the situation with a possible wolf hunt here in Michigan because Mike is on the Wolf Hunt Advisory Commission group since the beginning. So he has intimate knowledge of that. Well, Brian, that's all right. You say you're late this morning, but that's all right. Glad to have you along with us. No Chef Dave Miner this week. Dave will not be joining us. Now, I'm not going to say this on the air, but I'll tell you here online, Dave is not going to be joining us because he will be in surgery at that time, getting some work done on his back. Good morning, Marty. How are things in Rock? So when Dave isn't available for the show, you know something's up. So, Mike, maybe you and I will have a little more time to talk. Jeff was with us this morning, caught my ear, wolf hunt. Well, we're going to talk about the wolf hunt with Mike Thorman, who has been on the Wolf Advisory Committee. Jeff, are you still working or did you retire? You've got a couple more years yet, don't you? Anyway, Jeff, I haven't heard from you much. How you doing? Tim Binns brings me back on topic again. Tony, good morning, my friend. I appreciate your reports. I'll be back out there probably not now till Friday, which is driving me crazy because I missed some pretty good fishing weather, but other obligations get in the way sometime. Sunday would have been a great game. I don't like to. I try to make it a point to avoid fishing on the weekends. That's my family time. I unless it's a big event like a Walleye for Warriors event, I won't fish Sunday morning. I'm in church on Sunday mornings, and I wouldn't feel right if I missed church to go fishing. And I know God would smite me by giving me no fish. He said, I know he's thinking, Avery, if you don't go to church to go fishing, I'm not going to give you any fish that day. I don't think God worries about that kind of thing, that minutia. Friday or Saturday, Tony. 2 years for you, Jeff. All right, good deal. Thank you, Tim, for bringing me back on this topic. I love to keep track of the old ways, the old sayings. And there's an old saying that says, from the time you hear the first cicada buzz until the first frost, it'll be 6 weeks. Well, it's not. It's at least 8 weeks. 8 weeks would put us into, where I wrote it down somewhere, the end of August. It's not going to frost the end of August. So is it closer to 10 weeks? Is it 12 weeks or whatever? So I don't know what the exact, I did not draw a bear tag, Brian, and it's breaking my heart. Honestly, I stayed up Monday night till 12:01 so I could check. You got to pray to the fish gods on Sunday. Good point, Tony. I stayed up till 12:01 Tuesday morning to check those results. And then when I found out that I didn't get a bear tag, I didn't sleep very well. Jim checking in from St. Ignace. How are things in St. Ignace, Jim? Nice to have you along with us. So I think it is true that the earlier the cicadas buzz, the earlier you're going to get that first frost. Can we lock it into 6 weeks, 8 weeks, 10 weeks, 12 weeks? That I think would be a stretch, but I think it is true. The earlier the cicadas, the earlier the frost. I know, Brian. Bummer. Marty checked his at 2:30 in the morning. I was so hopeful. I knew I wouldn't get an elk tag, but I was so hopeful. I had about a 50-50 chance, I figured, with a bear tag. I really wanted a bear tag. I've missed 2 bear hunts, 2 springtime bear hunts in Quebec now. I've missed 2 August bear hunts in Ontario now. I was able to hunt in Michigan last year with Johnny. But I'm telling you, I love bear hunting so much, I would give up deer hunting and maybe turkey hunting, but not walleye fishing for bear hunting. Ross is the same way. Ross Elliott, good morning, my friend. Ross didn't get a bear tag either. He hasn't been back to Ontario either. Ross, I talked with Ron yesterday. He hasn't officially pulled the plug, but for all practical purposes, and I think next week he will be forced to officially pull the plug. And that's understandable. Jeff says, just go gator hunting in Florida. It's cheap and fun. It wouldn't be the same as bear hunting, Jeff. There's something about sitting in the woods and having this beautiful black bear sneak in on you because they don't make noise like deer do. You almost never know. The Detroit News, according to Ed Bolanowski, the Detroit News claimed this weekend that Canada should be open by Labor Day. It doesn't do us any good. It'll help my friend Nick Grillo of Michigan Brand Meats, who's going to go on a moose hunt up there, but it won't do us bear hunters any good. By the way, I'll be fishing Monday with Ed Bolanowski, who is on here with us now, of Speedy Blaze, and Sherm Hubbard of Speedy Blaze. So I'll be fishing Friday with the Michigan Brand guys, and I'll be fishing Monday with the Speedy Blaze guys. So even if we don't get fish, we'll have fun. Ross says, I don't blame him at all. A huge waste of money for him if they don't open the border. Absolutely, Ross. I don't blame him in the least. I don't blame him one bit, but I feel bad for him. At least Ron has another job on the side. What about these fly-in outfitters who that's their only business? And they've missed 2 years now of income. I don't know many people who could survive after the loss of 2 years of income. Tim says python hunting would be exciting. Tim, 2 minutes, Pat. Tim, I don't like garter snakes. I'm afraid of garter snakes, and you're telling me I should go python hunting? I would rather turn myself inside out than I would go snake hunting. Yeah, Tim Binge, you're more of a man than I am. Exactly. I try to avoid snakes. I mean, I'm not going to go looking for them. I see these guys doing these rattlesnake roundups out west. No, thank you. Yeah, Ross says, good point. Look out next year, Ron, next year, because those bears will not have been hunted in 2 years. So we should see some big bears. Unlike Jeff Hammond, who the first time he ever bear hunted, and I think the only time he ever bear hunted, he shot a 500-pound animal plus. John says they're good eating here in Florida. It's a thing. I know it's a thing, John, but it's not a thing for me. Not python hunting. Ooh. See, Craig's a big guy too, and he hates snakes too. Anyway, my name is Mike Avery. This is Behind the Mic. Jim didn't get his tag. You hunt your bear in Alaska. Now that would be a trip, John. This is Mike Behind the Mic, another live look inside the Outdoor Magazine radio studio. In about 15 seconds here, I'm going to start the radio show. 10 seconds. I won't be able to directly interact with you. I won't be able to answer your questions, kind of like I am right now. 4, 3, 2, 1, blast off. So I got to go to work. Can't really call it work, can you? It's not. I mean, it is. Snakes, I don't even like crawlers. That's a very good point. Maybe I don't like crawlers because they remind me of little baby snakes. That's a good point, Randy. Ross says they already have, Gary Morgan, Wild Game Dynasty is a good elk and bear guide. I forgot to throw his name out. All right, my friends. So I got to go. Listen, I would encourage you to join me tonight, 7 o'clock, for another edition of Wednesday Night Live here on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, whatever. Have a good day. Well, thank you, Ken Hunter, for that introduction, and welcome to another edition of the Outdoor Magazine show right here on the Outdoor Magazine Radio Network. My name is Mike Avery, and I'm glad to have you along with us as always. And you know what else I'm glad for right now? As we are in the studio this morning, the weather has changed. That heat wave has broken. Now, and it calls, looking at the weather forecast for the weekend, it calls for some cooler temps for the weekend too, but I could not be happier about that. It was so miserable last weekend. I don't care if I never see humidity and temperatures like that again, but I know I will. But in July, I mean, in August, you kind of expect it, but in July, it made for an interesting holiday weekend. We had fun. I hope you had fun. But now it's time to enjoy some cooler temperatures. All right, the big news this week for me and for many people across the state, the DNR announced who got bear and elk tags for this year. I was very, very interested in this. In fact, when they unveiled them online on the 6th, I stayed up till 12:01 a.m. to check my results. I did not get an elk tag, but that's not a surprise. I didn't expect an elk tag. I was pleasantly surprised, though. I thought I screwed up and kind of inadvertently, but kind of just not paying attention. I thought I applied for a cow tag, and I was convinced if I was ever going to get an elk tag, it would have been this year because I would have got the cow tag, which wouldn't be bad, but I'd kind of like to hold out for a bull, even though I know I'll never get an elk tag unless I win the Pure Michigan hunt, which I think I will sometime. But the thing I was really looking forward to was a bear tag. I love bear hunting. I would give up deer hunting in a heartbeat if you told me that I could bear hunt every year. I wouldn't even look back. I wouldn't even blink an eye, and I wouldn't matter to me. You tell me I can bear hunt somewhere every year. If I've got to give up deer hunting, then I'm there. Boom, done. I might even consider giving up turkey hunting every other year if I could get a bear tag every year. I would not give up walleye fishing. So I've been jonesing for a bear hunt. I've missed 2 springtime bear hunts in Quebec because of COVID and 2 August bear hunts now in Ontario because of COVID. And I feel so bad for the people north of the border who, a lot of them have missed 2 years of income now because the Americans can't come in and spend their money and go fishing and hunting up there. I was able to hunt last year with Johnny Bowler, a 3rd season in Newberry with my recurve. Had a close encounter with a nice bear, but wasn't able to make it happen. But this year, I'm going to hunt, I think, probably with a crossbow. And Johnny and I had it planned. Okay, we'll move the blind back from the bait a little bit. He said it'll be a completely different hunt. Really excited about it. 3rd season in Newberry, I had about a 50-50 chance. I did not get a tag. And if you were in the studio with me right now, I think you could see a little tear coming out of the corner of my eye because I did not get a bear tag. Now, there are, as we are recording the show right now, there are some leftover tags for the 3rd season in the Berglund unit. So I could go online and grab one of those here in a couple of weeks or whenever that date is. But in thinking about it, if I do that, and I don't know anybody over in Berglund that I can hunt with, and it's a pretty good drive from my place to keep baits going. It just wouldn't be feasible. If I did that, I would burn my points, and then I wouldn't be able to hunt in Newberry next year. So I'm going to wait. And I'm going to listen to all of your bear hunting stories. I'll be hunting vicariously through you this season. I did talk to Ron St. Louis of Northern Wilderness Bear Outfitters, our guy in White River, Ontario, Canada. Again, as we are in the studio right now, he hasn't officially pulled the plug on his operation, but the government up there isn't giving him a lot to work with, and I suspect that by next week he will have to pull the plug on that hunt. So the good news there is, by the time we get up there next summer, those bears will not have been hunted for 2 years, so we should see some big bears. So if you got a bear tag, congrats. If you got an elk tag, congrats. A lot of questions right now. Okay, I got the tag. Now what do I do? Unless you are able to bait your own, keep your own baits going, you're probably going to want a guide, or you're going to want to hunt with a dog hunter, somebody who runs hounds. Elk, same thing with elk hunting. Choosing the right hunting guide is the topic of this week's Ask Avery segment coming up at the end of the 2nd hour of this week's show. But I will tell you this. A good guide can make a mediocre hunt enjoyable, and a bad guide can really put a damper on a hunt. So people say, how do you choose a guide? Well, you got to do your research, go online, talk to people. The DNR has some information on their website as to people who are guides. My advice, though, is talk to people who have hunted with a guide before. References, and not just people who are successful. My litmus test is if people who hunted with a guide in a previous season and did not take an animal, but would still go back and hunt again, that is a good guide. My fishing has been limited the last week because of Mother Nature and family obligations. I missed some really good fishing weather over the weekend, but we had other family activities planned. You know, that's the way it goes. Sometimes there are things that get in the way of fishing. I know. Hey, I know. And then Mother Nature, of course, likes to get in the way of fishing sometimes too. We had a day planned fishing with a buddy of mine and his son, and I could see the weather forecast. And every day it looked worse. The wind looked worse, and straight out of the north. I told my buddy Lanny the night before. I said, we are crazy to plan a fishing trip for tomorrow. Now I always say, don't cancel a fishing or a hunting trip based on a forecast. However, when it gets to be a few hours before you're supposed to leave the dock and the forecast is still looking nasty and the winds are higher and higher, you got to think about it. Well, my buddy Lanny says, look, I've got the day off. Matthew wants to fish. Let's go. But okay, that Angler Quest can take a lot. It was a strong, strong north wind. There was nobody else leaving the marina. There was nobody else in the river as we left, the Saginaw River. We get out to the mouth, and there's whitecaps, and there's rollers, and it's just bumpy, and it looks nasty. I thought maybe we can duck behind the island. That is the only protected water around here, and it's our only chance that we're even going to be able to be on the water. Ducked in behind the island, and even in there, the waves were 3 and 4 feet. Made a couple of passes through there and said, that's enough. Now, I posted some video of this on online, and people said, hey, you always say that Angler Quest can get up on top of a chop. It can. But when you got 4-footers that are, a certain distance apart, even the Angler Quest can't get on top of those. You got a 3-foot tight chop, yeah, you can get up on top of it. So we trolled the river and caught a sheephead and a rock bass, and at least we were on the water, and at least we had some, good conversation, and it was fun. But I do have a couple of trips planned coming up here in the next few days. Really looking forward to getting back out there again if Mother Nature cooperates. Speaking of Mother Nature, I got a couple of reports of the first cicadas buzzing. I love to keep track of these old sayings. The old saying is, from the time you hear the first cicada buzz until the first frost is 6 weeks. Now, I've been keeping track of this for years. My dad kept track of it for years, and it's not 6 weeks. I used to think it's closer to 8 weeks. Well, now I'm thinking it's closer to 10 or 12 weeks. Because if you go by the first cicada buzzing this year, we would have our first frost at the end of August, and that's not going to happen. Well, we don't think that's going to happen. I do think, though, that it's accurate that the earlier the cicadas buzz, the earlier the frost, and the later they buzz, the later the frost. So just a mental note to keep in mind. I did have to put up the goose barricade this year. I thought I was going to be able to get away without it, get by without it. But when I'd look out in the backyard and there were 2 families of geese out there making a real big mess, I said, okay, that's enough. I put up my snow fence, my goose barricade. And now every time I see them swim by the yard in the pond there, I give them a little grin. Gotcha. Now you can't make a mess. Coming up on this week's Outdoor Magazine show, after the break here, Johnny Bowler, who was the guy I was hoping to bear hunt with, talking about bear hunting in Michigan, his operation. He also runs whitetail hunts. Bob Ransom of Primal Tree Stands joins me, and Ground Blinds. They make that beautiful Wraith 270 see-through blind, but they've got the new Breeze blind out. I think for early season hunters, like bear hunters and such, this would be a great blind. In hour number 2, J.J. Mertz of Mid-Michigan Community College. They have a program to help people get into the outdoor industry. Rachel Leitner from the DNR talks about how to transfer your tags if you were successful. This week's Ask Avery segment, again, going back to how do you pick a good hunting guide. And in hour number 3, Mike Thorman of the Michigan Hunting Dog Federation talking about the dog training season coming up, about running bears with dogs. He's also on the Michigan Wolf Hunt Advisory Committee. We'll talk about that and lots more. All that coming up this week right here on Outdoor Magazine. All right, a couple of things I see here that I didn't get a chance to listen to. Tim Roller, good morning, my friend. How are you? You have a great day. Jim says, I hope there will be a White River Bear hunt this year. No. I'd say it's about 99% it's not going to happen, Jim. All right, my friends, have a good day. Enjoy the cooler temps. A little muggy out there still. The website, MikeAveryOutdoors.com. You can always reach me. An email is mike@MikeAveryOutdoors.com. And I hope you can join me tonight at 7 o'clock for another edition of Wednesday Night Live.